minutes after 9. We'll call the meeting to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, moved by Dan.
Second.
Seconded Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Approve of minutes from last week.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last week.
Okay, moved by Judy.
Second.
Seconded Steve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Public comment. Anyone wish to address the board? Sure. And just anybody that doesn't know, state your name and your township, and then you have 2 minutes.
My name is Ted Von Arx. I live in Mount Prairie Township, 755 County 29, or 7559 County 25, excuse me. The reason I'm here, I have a neighbor that has plans to build 9 greenhouses right along in a field adjacent to my property line, and I'm a little concerned about that. I'm concerned that it'll degrade the value of my property, both from a net worth perspective and also from an aesthetic perspective. I'm not opposed to his greenhouse business, it's just the location of it. It would seem like it would make more sense to locate his greenhouse business next to his other farm buildings, which is across the road from my property. Anyway, I missed the hearing, what was it, a week or so ago. I couldn't get off work in time. But that's why I'm here today, and I guess normally you would be approving a permit like this today, and I ask that you reconsider and allow a little more time to give my neighbor an opportunity to maybe rethink his plan. You know, something that's a little more equitable for both of us. So.
And Dana, you're on the planning commission. This came up obviously a couple weeks ago at the planning commission meeting.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I know we saw that it was supposed to be on for permits today, but yeah. Okay. Well,
I would recommend he sticks around for when Bob gets.
He is going
Yep.
to wait.
Yep. So it'll be just
We'll discuss.
yeah.
Okay.
So just a few minutes here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right. We move on to our first appointment, which is Bob Scanlan.
Good morning. I was just going to walk through the permit applications from the Planning Commission back on December 16th. We had 3 on the agenda for conditional use and 1 for a variance application. The variance application applicant was the same as one of the conditional uses for Ivan and Lois McElhiney. Applied for a variance of 20 feet to meet the required 100-foot setback from County 25. The Board of Adjustment did approve that, and that was to, as Ted Von Arx mentioned, to build 9 greenhouses. And like I said, they went ahead and approved that one. I'll talk about the conditional use right now. Conditional use application was to put 9 greenhouses on approximately 7 acres. That does include the highway right-of-way and setbacks. Once you take those out, it's roughly 4 acres, 4.5 acres of area in order to build the greenhouses. There was some discussion, several things come up as far as one being where's the water going? Once you create all that roof water from 9 greenhouses, and the size of these greenhouses vary anywhere from 130 to 230 feet long by roughly 30 feet wide. And so once you take the roof area and compound that with the impervious if you rock the driveway to access these greenhouses and in between the greenhouses even. So once you create some impervious area, you know, you're gonna concentrate some stormwater, and then what's gonna happen with that stormwater once it starts to flow across the land. So with what was brought up by Ted here this morning, and some of the discussion that was held with the planning commission, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to maybe look a little closer into it, and maybe have the soil and water office review it a little closer. Dave from the conservation office was out there, but I think maybe coming up with a stormwater plan would be a bad idea right now, before you approve 9 greenhouses, just to make sure it's going to be feasible as far as stormwater goes. The other thing too is once you move more than an acre worth of material, you're required to have an MPCA stormwater permit, and that was a condition that they abide by all federal, state, and local permits. They would have to apply for that state stormwater permit and come up with a plan that would be approved by MPCA. So with that in mind, you know, I guess I'll leave it up to you, but I don't know if you want to act on that before I talk about the other two, or?
Yeah, we probably
I'd like to make a
Yeah.
motion to postpone it 2 weeks, you think, to let the soil and water.
Or
I think
just-
2 weeks would be all right. Yeah.
Okay.
We got that 60-day window.
Yeah.
We'd still be within 60 days if you act on it by the 3rd week in January, even the 4th week. But I think we're on day 35 right today, so we got some time to have soil and water look at it and still meet that 60-day deadline.
And at that time, before the 60 days, we could deny it, and then, right?
Yeah. So,
And that would end the 60-day period, and then they would have to start over if they wanted to
right. If
do something different, right?
Yep, if they want to do something different, they could do it within that 60 days, or, you know, give you a chance to look at their alternative plan as well. You know, if soil and water says, nah, you know, maybe, for instance, only 7 greenhouses would work, and this is what we would like to see as far as a stormwater plan, maybe a holding pond or something. Then he comes in with an alternative plan within 60 days to give you a chance to look at that too. Okay. And it's happened before with the county boards over the years. Things have come to light after the planning commission meeting, brought to the attention of the county board that weren't brought to light during the public hearing process. So this is something that does happen. You know,
So do you want to?
Bob, is it okay if I share what we had from the planning commission?
Sure.
That picture of the greenhouse?
Yep.
To the other board members? I brought along what we had to look at, so you get an idea what 11 greenhouses?
9.
9. That's the material we had when at the planning and zoning.
Do you think there's a better site for that? If you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, this was the application, you
Mhm.
know, talking with Sheldon McElhaney. He was reluctant to go to a different site on the farm. And this is what he was hoping to get approved, you know, I guess this was his first choice.
Because the land across the road is also his land.
That is part of the farm too, yeah.
Is that something we could put in with that, and just, what is a plan B possibly?
Well, the problem is, his application included just the description of this,
Oh, so
this
you'd have to
piece
make a
of
different
land.
application for
Yeah,
that.
and so, you know, I think the farmer's in a trust, and there's certain things they can do or can't do with it, something to that effect, or for future use of the farm. So this is what they had intended to use this parcel for. And this was their application.
And we just heard a complaint about aesthetics, I guess, and that really can't be a reason probably for not allowing him to construct here.
Well, you can go through the criteria and see if there's something there that you could address to maybe put up something to.
A tree line or something, maybe?
Yeah, tree
Okay.
line, for instance, maybe create better aesthetics.
Mhm.
But the big thing is the soil and water,
Right now.
water runoff, plus the,
It's gonna go on the road.
yeah.
It's actually.
Plus he needs the
going to
MPCA.
south. It's actually coming towards the Monarch's property,
Yeah,
and,
the runoff,
yeah,
it would run,
towards
really?
the Monarch's property. There, if you look on the lower right-hand corner of that picture, there's a stormwater pond there on the Monarch's property right
Mhm.
today.
Okay,
And there's a reason why it's there, that's where the water's flowing. And once you create more impervious area, you know, rooftop and
there'll be more.
rock, it'll just concentrate it even more. You know, the talk was that the planning commission was to seed down that 50-foot buffer, you know, the perennial grasses that would come in every year to slow that water down. Whether that's sufficient or not, I guess I'd like to have the soil and water just take a little closer look at it.
Would be a good idea.
Okay.
So I guess,
I'll second Dana's
Do I
motion.
need to have an MPCA look at it too?
That's required.
It's a
That's
requirement, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Until, I guess, table until we get a reply.
Yeah.
Okay.
yep, sound good?
That line.
Okay, motion in a second, any discussion? We kind of already did. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Two others on the agenda that night, the Michael Semling application that was for a substantial land alteration, and that was actually after the fact. It was for some excavation that he had done on his property in Yucatan Township, right off of County 4 there. Basically just straight south of the city of Houston. It was brought to our attention via a complaint, and so I went out to the site and saw that there was excavation done. He had leveled an area of land that we would consider or define as bluff protection area, bluff area. It was over 24% slope, and anytime you excavate in those areas, other than for instance logging purposes, you do need a permit in Houston County. And so he came in for his permit after the fact. There were several conditions put on the permit as well, or the application here. There was 3 of them actually, that he would follow all federal, state, and local permits. And number 2, he follows the plan that was put together by Dave Walter from the Soil and Water Office. Dave had about 7 things that he'd like to see addressed on the site as soon as possible, you know, in the spring here. And that number 3 condition that was put on by the Planning Commission, that Mr. Semling would not build any houses, cabins, or sheds, no building structures at all on the property. Just to address what would have happened if he'd have come in before doing the excavation, it would have been denied. You know, it would have been over 24% slope, thus an application to build any kind of structure on that would have been denied at that time. So they put that on as a condition that anyone, Semlings or anyone else that would buy the property, that this is recorded with that property and that they would not build any structures on the property. So those 3 conditions were put on. And I guess just leave it up to you on approval. The last thing on the agenda was Jim and Cindy Bird, home occupation. This was tabled from the month before, so the Planning Commission had a chance to go out and look at the site. They went out and viewed it on the 16th of December there, and several questions were answered after the meeting, or during this process here to further review it. A couple things that would come to light was the FEMA DNR floodplain regulations, and whether this mill or hotel, whatever you want to call it, is within the floodplain. Then they have to address those types of issues. Number 2 was the Department of Health lodging regulations that go with anytime you open your building up for lodging, overnight stay. There are several things that you have to do to meet Department of Health regulations. There was an inspector out to the site, Sam Boysen, inspected the property, and his biggest concerns were the septic system and the well, and those look like they're up to snuff. They're both newer systems. The newer septic system, actually, it's just a holding tank, and then the well is a newer well, so they're not code too. He did mention the state fire marshal regulations, and he'd like to make sure, the planning commission would like to make sure that those requirements are obtained and followed as well. So I guess I'll just go through the 5 conditions that were put on by the planning commission. If you have any questions, let me know. But number 1, of course, all federal, state, and local permits be obtained and followed. 2, Department of Health requirements be obtained and followed, including a license. There's certain licensing requirements from Department of Health, and that they follow that as well. Number 3, state fire marshal requirements be obtained and followed. 4, floodplain elevation shall be surveyed for the first floor of the mill and the lowest adjacent grade to the mill. And if the mill is in the 100-year floodplain, then compliance shall be met according to DNR FEMA regulations. And number 5, the northwest side parking lot is required to be removed, and that was discussed a month prior to. Some of that material had been excavated within County 5 right-of-way and into a nearby wetland as well. So the plan is to remove that material and actually move it to the south of the mill for future parking. So with that being said, I guess just turn it over to you.
All right, do we have a motion to approve permits?
Make a motion to approve permits.
Okay, motion by Dan,
Second.
seconded Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay. Thanks, Bob.
So you sign these two. And I guess the zoning permits too.
Oh, we need a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the zoning permits.
I'll second.
Yeah, these two, right?
Yep.
Okay, motion, second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay. That's all I had done.
Have we, as a board, done anything to thank Bruce, is it Bruce?
Bruce
Yeah.
Lee? Yeah.
For his service on,
Not yet, I usually send all those letters out when we do our city appointments.
okay, all right. Just want to make sure that he
Yep,
gets thanked.
we will, yep.
That'd be good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Brian?
Agenda for 2 items today. First one is a airport grant agreement. Discussed this with the commissioners and subcommittee this morning. Kind of with most of our grants, we get approval of grants and the funding in advance before the project begins. With the airport, we kind of have been getting told by the FAA or Midnight Aeronautics that we're approved for the funding, but they don't actually put the grant agreements in place until at the end when they know what the final dollar amount is. So I have the general obligation bond proceeds grant agreement for the airport for the paving project that took place this last summer. This is for the state portion of the grant. It's for state goal funds in the amount of $39,763. And then the rest of the funds have been already covered by other grants or local funds. So I have sent this over to the attorney's office. Jamie reviewed it, gave me the go-ahead to come into the board for approval today. Doesn't commit the county to any additional requirements that we are not already committed to with other airport funds.
And what does all that cover?
This is for the state portion of the funding for the airport overlay.
Okay, the one that already did, yeah.
Yep.
Move to approve?
Moved by Steve,
I'll second it.
seconded Teresa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And then the second item I have is About every 5 years, the county is required to update our disadvantaged business enterprise program for the airport. What it is in order to obtain federal or certain state funding, we need to have the DBE program in place. The last update was done in 2006, so we were required to update the program. Back earlier mid-year, the board approved a hire Mead and Hunt to update the program. That's been done, so at this point, the county board needs to approve the current plan that's put in place. After the board approves it, it goes to public comment. There's a 30-day public comment period, and then if there's any public comment items that come up that need to be addressed, we come back to the board for revision to the plan or address it in the next DBE update in 5 years. So I asked multiple times in this process, usually you have the public comment period prior to the board approving it. For some reason with airports, they do it the opposite way. The board needs to approve it first before it goes to public comment. So
What would be the point of going to public comment if it's already approved?
Yeah,
I've been, I don't know why it goes this way. I really don't. And I tried to get that answer. I was just told that's the way that is required on the airport side.
What's actually in this DBE?
What it is whenever you do a project that has DBE goals or federal funds, I guess a small project might not have any goals, you need to evaluate to see if a certain percentage of that project needs to be, you have contractors that are either minority or disadvantaged businesses. Well, businesses need to do a certain percentage of the project. For our overlay project, we had, I believe, 1.8% of that project had to be done by minority or disadvantaged business. Had to do that job. So the project was Math Construction had the prime contractor. They had the contract, but they needed to hire other contractors to do work for them. In the case of our county, most of our businesses are non-DBE companies, so they usually try to find a trucking company that might be an independent operator that's either a female or a minority. And if they do haul enough loads of rock, then that'll cover their goals that are required. We do this on a lot of our roadway side projects, although on the roadway side, MnDOT administers the DBE program. They tell us what the goal is. The county's pretty much hands off until we get the bids back in. We look and say, yep, it met the goals, or no, it didn't. Send them up to the state, they review it, and then they say, yep, you're good to go, move on. On the airport side, the state does not administer that, so the county needs to administer it, or we hire a consultant to administer it for us, so. Kind of a federal requirement, so.
Just do it.
Just do it.
But are you left with having to look for disadvantaged business?
We're not, but the
Okay.
prime contractors that are bidding, they are
Mhm.
required to look for them.
They have to look for
Yeah,
them.
and if they don't meet the requirements, they need to document that they tried to obtain
Okay.
businesses, and, they don't need to select a minority business just because they're a minority or a woman-owned business. They need to give them an opportunity to bid on it. And if their numbers come in too high, they don't need to select them. They can select a lower contractor to
Mhm.
help them out.
Okay. I guess it's not really a noose around our neck, other than having the paperwork. Move to approve.
Okay, moved by Steve.
Second.
Seconded Judy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. All right. Tess Kruger.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I trust you had a pleasant holiday. Don't tire you out too much. I have a bit of an agenda to get through today, so I'll go ahead and get started with that. The first item up on the agenda is the non-employees. It's an action request for COLA and step increases for non-employees, they are employees, non-represented employees, non-union employees, for which there are several listed. You had in your board packet a spreadsheet that outlined those who are eligible for a step increase pursuant to the county's wage, non-represented wage guideline that we developed a couple of years ago. Those three are Carol Lapham, Andrew Mildy, and Jeremiah Shaver. There are 6 steps in the non-represented union wage grid, and then there is a discretionary range prior to employees reaching full salary. Those that are in the discretionary range, pursuant to your this grid, are Lisa Erlandson and Michelle Schulte. They're both in public health. And then there are several that are already at maximum who would only receive a COLA. That'd be myself, Lori Bigall, Suzanne Bublitz, Nikki Folsom, Janice Lochner, Diane Sullivan, Mary Thompson, and Mary Zapke. The step increases, we're looking at 1 step for service of 1 year. That's typically how the historically how it's been. The discretionary range, my recommendation is a 1%. The county has, over the years, up until about 4 years ago, did 2. We rolled it back to 1% at that time, about 3 years ago. The COLAs represent a 1% as of January 1, 2014, with a 1.5 on July 1, 2014. January 1, 2014, July 1, 2014. So I think this would prevent the salary compression as compared to those who are represented by unions. It's also would keep those somewhat at par with those other represented persons. I stand for questions on that.
Did Janice Lochner, we accepted her resignation,
She's
correct?
not.
As effective January 8th.
Oh, so she would be included for 1 week, basically.
And thank you I double checked that before.
Okay. I saw her name on it and I thought, I think we just.
Yes, Commissioner, I was thinking it was December 31st, but no, it's January 8th is her effective date of resignation.
And this has all been budgeted for as comparable to the union contracts? Is it
Yes, that is
comparable?
my understanding. That's all included in the budget going forward. That's the finance director here. She actually prepared this. Carol, the finance director, actually prepared the spreadsheet for you today. I know initially we had some problems in our calc column and we sent you a second corrected one.
Right.
I make a motion that we approve the salaries as asked on or talked about on this report.
Okay, motion by Judy,
Second.
seconded by Steve. Any other discussion?
Which ones are we?
Just the non-union.
Which ones are we voting on now?
The COLA plus step, the COLA 1% discretionary, and the COLA only.
For the non-union employees.
I have a question, one more question.
Yes, Commissioner.
Jeremy Shaver was just hired in the middle of the year.
Mhm. Actually, the step
You
increases,
recommend
I need to
increase?
qualify that. The step,
The step increase
thank
already?
you for asking me about that. The step increases for our employees will be effective their anniversary date.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering.
Yes, thank you for
He
that.
just got hired.
No, they're effective anniversary dates and not effective January 1. The COLAs will be effective January 1, the discretionary is effective January.
I wanted to make that clear.
And that is an important distinction to be made.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I have is just, I voted against the union raises and the tax increase, so I gotta stay true to my word. No reflection on anybody, but staying true and not flip-flopping on who gets who, so, just so that's known. But we do have,
I think they're modest. I don't believe that we're being overly generous in this. It's a matter of trying to keep things fair, equitable.
They also keep us within market range. We
Mhm.
certainly are not a county at the top of the market.
No.
And those of us who work for this county know that and realize that, and we live in this part of the state for a lot of reasons and work for this county for a lot of other reasons. But they certainly, I would agree with you, are modest and, and appropriate. But they also keep us competitive with hiring, because we do have through attrition the need to attract employees to this part of the state as well.
any other questions, comments? All right, request for roll call, and we'll take a vote.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Nope.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries.
On behalf of the employees that are non-represented, I'm sure I reflect their sentiments, especially for myself. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support. Secondly, what we have up today is the elected official salary adjustments. As you know, by statute, these are to be set by the end of the year for the upcoming year. And I have sent you a spreadsheet reflecting, including 4 commissioners, which would be at your discretion for your discussion. A spreadsheet that reflects a 1 plus 1.5 COLA. I would like to, subsequent to speaking with the county treasurer, I am amending my request to include a different amount for Treasurer Treyas to be a flat rate of $54,340. Now let me qualify the reason I say that. In 2010, when Ms. Treyas came to the county as an elected official, my recommendation at that time was for $54,000 based on what I thought was an equitable amount as compared to for her years of experience and for the role of the position, the level of the responsibilities, authority, and as compared to colleagues of similar colleagues across our region. I do think that the $54,340 will help prevent salary compression. Salary compression is where you have others that the percentages, because they're based on higher amounts, actually represent a greater increase. Her colleagues in this county in previous years used to receive the equivalent of what might be deemed a step, if you will, for those adjustments to keep them competitive. That has not been the case since Ms. Treyas came here, and I think it would be equitable in agreement with her request, and we've discussed it. So I would ask that my document be amended to reflect the $54,340 amount. Otherwise, I stand for questions, and I know several of the elected officials are here and may have their own personal perspective on this as well.
So Tess, real quick, I know we've had some things that have come up, obviously with Donna, and I know Shar's had some concerns, and we've got an election coming up this year, and I believe it's all but 3 commissioners who are elected that are going to be up. This got brought up, and I thought I'd ask this question. With the elections coming up, should this be something that we take back and set for salaries for electeds? I understand what happened with Donna, where you get elected and then it was redone after the fact. My question is, should we be looking more at everybody's, since it's
Commissioner, I
election year?
think you set those salaries for for elections in January.
Correct, but here's my question. Do we, okay, so we set it year by year, okay? My question is, should we go back and take a look at everything as a whole and say, okay, let's say that for this 4-year term that you're gonna get, this is what you can expect, have something written out versus always being year by year, it could go, it may not, should we have it more of a, the unions have a 3-year contract. I know we went through the same thing with the sheriff's department and the dog. We said we don't want to keep doing it every single year. Should we have something that's more, for these 4 years that you run for this office, this is what you can expect versus you may not?
Commissioner, one of the things that has come up in conversation in the past with regards to elected officials is when we compare across our counties, we compare time and grade, if you will. I know we're not civil service, so we don't have grades. But time and grade, if you will, the amount of experience, a lot of factors, because the salaries can be quite varied. So whether you have somebody who is basically elected with little to no experience, or someone who has a lot of experience or has been with the county for a period of time. We have never in this county just set, this is what, this county's history is not just setting, this is why you get now. We do set in January what the minimal will be if that going into an election year. And I can't remember what the county sets, but it's not the same as what current people are getting necessarily. And then in December, you set what the exact, that's after the elections, after the person's in, after you know who, not who, but the experience, the candidate themselves, what they bring to the table, and they also have a voice in their, according to statute, in their salary.
So we're required by statute, state statute, to set it every year in December
For the subsequent
for
year.
the next
And
year.
you're also required, and I'm certainly not an expert, you can check with the county attorney on this, you're required to set it in January.
You set it in January, the minimum
Minimum.
for anybody who's elected following.
For the following year.
Correct. But you have to set in December what the salary will be for next
No.
year.
To
And up
add-
until 2008, elected officials were treated the same as other department heads and were given the steps and moved up the same chart. In 2008, that changed.
Now, in response to the second half, and what Ms. Miners is saying and what the Commissioner asked about is, should we have a grid? We talked about doing a grid about this time last year, and I sent out a request for what we call a professional PAQ, position analysis questionnaire, and I got responses back by one elected official, and we went through that process and had the banding looked at. These positions are not banded as such. There is this. You set the salary by statute, according to the statutory guidelines. You could have a 4-year, if you will, grid. It is merely a guideline, though, because you're required to set the salary annually. And you do not want to, in my opinion, although I would defer to the county attorney's office again, you would not want to, it's strictly my opinion as an HR person, not as an attorney, set something to where you had a contractual 4-year commitment, because the statute provides for annual setting of salaries. But certainly it wouldn't hurt, and it may be very helpful to have a guideline to go by. I would recommend having a guideline to go by.
It'd be nice to have something.
It just seems like it's arbitrary now. It's kind of like,
Well, and at this point, that's why I am recommending it isn't arbitrary. I mean, we do look at what those in our region are. I have those numbers in front of us. We are looking at doing an equivalent COLA for those who are more or less at maximum, although that's arguable whether they are or not. I'm not saying they are. But we should make an adjustment for certain for Ms. Treyas above COLA. And you have the other numbers in front of you. The 1 plus 1.5 represents roughly 1.25 annually, and then at the end of the year, they'd be at par.
So you're asking for just,
I am asking for the grid that you have, along with the adjustment for Atreus, to be adopted by the board.
I'll make a motion that we go with the facts that Tess put forward.
okay, moved by Judy,
Second?
seconded by Steve. Any other discussion?
Are we voting on our salaries too?
Hasn't come up yet, I don't believe.
Well, that is included
That's in
in
your
that
packet.
grid. What I would,
It's included on your grid.
and what I would prefer to do is, at some point, I'd like to state the name of the
Okay.
elected official and the salary amount, and have you vote.
We're still ready to go individually.
Okay,
Okay, then can I take back my motion? It
yeah,
wasn't
let's
seconded.
clarify real quick. What do you want,
Yeah.
Tess? Do you want to do it one by one, or?
I would like it on record, one by one. I believe that's how we've always done it in the past.
Okay, so you want to do one motion per
So that it's
person?
published, so that we have it published where it's,
Okay.
because it needs to be published.
Take it away.
I,
Okay, we'll
Okay.
assume that motion first, and then
There you
we'll.
go.
Shall I give you a copy of it?
Yes, please.
Somebody?
This.
Make prints of everything but that one.
I don't know who wants to read them off. That's the them off.
Okay.
Commissioners at the top, if you'd like to read them that.
You can read them off of your
Yes.
motion.
Can I just open something up for discussion before we speak?
By all means, yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with the commissioners staying where they're
That's
at.
what I'm on board.
I'm okay with it.
I'm
I
okay
just don't
with
feel like giving myself a raise.
Right.
It just,
Now, can I ask
Don't feel
one
right.
question? Why do we separate ourselves from other elected officials?
It's true,
It's
it's
not
our
that I'm looking
choice
for
to
a
do
raise, I'm
that.
just saying, if we can hold the line, should we hold them to hold the line, or? do we-
Okay, then I say that we go forward with how it reads on here. I'll make a motion that Char Minor's annual salary goes from, can I read the beginning and the ending? Is that fine?
Yes, it's a, should
Okay.
be published.
or just name a salary.
Okay, that her salary is set at $66,419.04 for 2014.
You want a motion on that, or you want to read the list and then make a?
I just
one by
need
one?
it to be, the list to be published.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
We
go
do it
down that
one
list.
motion.
Vote on
That
that.
Donna Trius go from 52,000, go to
Are we gonna vote on it?
$54,340, I'm sorry, for annual salary for 2014. That Jamie Hamel go to $91,017.17 for 2014. That Bev Bauer go to $60,627.46 for 2014. That Doug Ely go to $86,371.95 for 2014. That Dana Chomi go to $19,016.34. That Steve Schultz, Judy Storley, Teresa Walter, Justin Zeminski all also go to $19,016.34. I make that motion that we approve these raises. Well, they're not really, they're, okay, raises.
Okay, motion by Judy,
Second.
seconded by Steve. Any other discussion? Say the same thing I always did, I voted
Yeah.
against the increase I thought was budgeted for, so to stay on par, I'll vote against this.
Yes.
So,
Just to clarify, their cost of living adjustments.
Right, that's what I was trying to get the word there, thank you. COLA increases.
Cost of
Yeah.
living adjustments.
Cost of living adjustments is what we're giving.
This is not.
Are we
not-
still voting as a group then? I thought we were
Yes.
gonna vote individually.
We
no,
wanted to
she just
name
wanted to list them all
the
individually
whole,
before we vote,
everybody.
to make it public.
And Steve seconded it, right?
Yeah, discussion.
Yep, and like I said, it's, I can't vote for lower taxes and then give out raises, so that's why. Like I said, it's not a reflection on anybody, just staying true to my word. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and we'll take a vote. What's that, Steve?
Are we done discussing?
Yeah, did you have anything else?
I don't know what the vote's gonna be.
The vote's to approve everybody on that sheet that Judy just read
The
off.
COLA that Tess presented.
Yeah. Sure, Tess.
And Commissioner Choney, the sheet,
Oh,
please.
do you want to
That
look
might
at
be
this?
helpful.
Okay.
I didn't make extra copies for you. I will give the press that copy.
And I, as we're discussing it, and before I said something about us not doing a raise, but it is true that it's not a raise, it's a cost of living. And I think that everybody deserves the cost of living raise.
Yep. Everybody get a chance to see it? Yeah, okay.
And just for
No,
everybody's
I
here,
did.
this was emailed to the commissioners previously. This is last year.
Yep. And to Craig, I know you're writing, but just, I know the board hasn't had raises in like 7 years or whatever, so that's why I'd be against it also, just because it includes the
I've been
commissioners, and I
covering you
need to
guys
hold
for
that line at 0.
6 years now, so I'm
Correct.
aware of that.
Yep. All right, roll call, please, Sharp.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
May I get my sheet back?
Yes.
So you can verify your numbers? For publication? Thank you. Now, next on the agenda, and thank you for that, was there anybody that wants to? Staffing. Human Services Department, we have Linda, thank you. We have a resignation of a social worker, Karen Sanis. Her resignation would be effective, she submitted it effective January 3rd, 2014. Ms. Sanis has served Houston County since August of 2001. I respectfully request that the board accept her resignation, thank her for her service, and wish her well in her future professional endeavors.
Move to accept the resignation?
Okay, moved by Steve,
I'll second it.
seconded by Teresa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Did you want to say anything?
Sure. Yeah, Karen is, well, we will miss Karen. Karen is a great investigator, if nothing else. She's wonderful, actually. She's a good employee. She's been very dedicated, and she's tried her hardest, so we will miss Karen.
She's done an array of social work and child protection investigations. She's doing adult protection now. I think she's done chemical dependency as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, she probably, well, she has a very varied background and has done pretty much everything we have here except, I think, mental health. So, yeah, very well-rounded person that way.
However, we have two other requests for you. One is that we begin immediately a search for a 1 FTE social worker, a regular employee. And then subsequent to that, I would like to discuss the request for a temporary employee. But if we could get a request, approval to move forward with a competitive search.
So we would hire a 67-day employee until we get.
Yeah, that's going to be
somebody
my
else.
second request. That's come from the social service supervisor,
Oh, I
Tim
see.
Hunter. There's a huge demand. He's taking part of the caseload. Part of the caseload is being farmed out among other folks. I understand that there is a huge demand on their resources right now, and we're not sure we can even find somebody to fill this gap, but if we could, to help out, the department really is going to be in need of it while we do the search. But those would be two separate requests. Do you have anything to add beyond
So you need two separate motions.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to recommend searching for adult protection social worker.
Okay, moved by Teresa,
Second?
seconded Steve, any discusussion?
What does a C-41 wage mean?
That's a wage between $18.43 at step 1 to $22.36 at step 2, step 5, I believe,
I had a question
the
about,
last step.
when someone resigns and then we go look for new, do they get what that person was getting, or do they go
No,
down some?
no, what we do, Commissioner, typically, we try to hire entry level so that we have some
Entry level.
salary savings. However, we may have, through equal opportunity, may have a 20-year veteran come to our service, and we certainly don't hire at the top of the range. We may hire, though, competitively up to a step 3, up to a mid-range. So it's still a salary savings, but it may not be quite as much of a salary savings as if you have an entry-level person, but we do reap some savings there.
Does that go with every position, or it goes by
Yes,
according to
sir.
what you're looking for?
Every single one. We, throughout the year, we have those kinds of savings going forward.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Oh, you're welcome.
Motion?
We have a motion and a second.
I made a motion.
Yep.
Steve second.
Yep.
Did you, Steve?
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thanks.
The
Then I'll make a
67.
motion to hire a 67-day social work employee to help with adult protection.
Moved by Teresa,
Second?
seconded Steve, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Information systems, we have a recommendation, as you noted, Commissioner Chomey, that we have, that Jeremy Shaver hasn't been with us that long, but he's coming up on, to complete his 22,080 hours of service. We don't know exactly when that is because he was, I believe did some part-time work for us there for a while before being full-time. But that upon his attaining that within the next week or so, that he moved from probationary status to regular status. And the supervisor is here. Do you want to speak to? Jeremy has done a great job. He hit the ground running. Yeah. There was,
Wake up.
and he's been a very valuable employee.
Oh, you're really blushing there, aren't you?
Actually, he gave him raving reviews in his performance review that came forward. So we request that this,
I'll make a motion to move Jeremy Shaver from probationary to regular upon his completion of 2,080 hours of service.
Okay, moved by Judy,
Second?
seconded Steve, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
and lastly, Commissioners, and I apologize for this lengthy agenda today, but lastly, we have building maintenance. I'm requesting that we hire and Craig Welch is a 67-day employee, as we still have one of our staff out on long-term leave.
Is Craig Welch the same person who does,
He is,
Yes, he
Commissioners,
is.
he
so it
is.
doesn't put him in overtime or anything like that, taking this position?
Not with either of us. We have to be,
Okay.
the county here is going to be flexible with his hours, but what is going to be advantageous for us is that there isn't going to be a learning. He will do everything from a little bit of janitor work. We have to, for instance, we have to replace a couple of toilets. We have work to do that's starting to mount up. We have a little bit of modest carpentry we need done, some things like that. And so it would be nice to be able to move forward with this.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Staff has really pulled together, but it is a struggle.
I'll make a motion to hire Craig Welch as a 67-day employee.
Okay, moved by Judy,
Second?
seconded Steve, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you all very much.
Dan?
Let us have it.
All right, here to talk about aerial photography. We use the air photos in our GIS system and on our Beacon website and in multiple departments throughout the county. My office, the assessor's office, zoning, auditors, dispatch, and basically, recorders use it through Beacon. Everyone who uses Beacon uses the air photos. We have, the last time we did a flight to get new air photos was 2010. That was a straight down ortho photo like you see when you look at Beacon. There's two types of photography we use at the county. There's that ortho straight down photo, and then there's what they call oblique imagery, which a company called Pictometry does. That takes pictures from 4 multiple angles that you can look at and do measurements on instead of just looking straight up the E911 budget. So it wouldn't be any budgeted money that would be used. I think Tom kind of wanted to talk about.
Sorry, just with the compliance fund, I know we talked too about not letting it go down, but that's fine.
And with the balance, I just checked, Dan came over the other day and we checked the balances and stuff, and even with the maintenance fees and the license fees and everything that comes out automatically every year, with half of this, we still will not go below what we had intended to stay at, so works out real well.
And our 911 fund, I tried to get where we were at today. We're at about 82,000 right now. We get in about 92,000 a year from the state in our 911 fund, and right now we're running at about 45,000 of yearly expenses we're paying. So as we've done in the past with the 911, we build it up over time before we have a big expenditure at the dispatch, and right now we have enough in there to forward us through that too. I think Tom kind of wanted to talk too about the changes that go over time and why it's important to keep updating the photos.
And what I put in front of you is the 010 air photo and an 08 photo. I just did a new split on a property and up on Oak Ridge. And if you look at the 010 photo, the one that's not quite as colored as the 08, you can see right off the left-hand top corner there, the clearing that occurred on that property. If you go down to the 08 photo, you can see it's all woods. There's about a 4 to 5 acre clearing that went on. And with what's happened in the last few years, all of the clearings that has gone on to obtain more cropland, it gives us a better perspective of what's gone on in those properties so that we can value them different. I believe that there's going to be a house on this property, and the idea, the ability to go in and check those and make sure that we have the right amount of woods versus the right amount of tillable acres is pretty important to our job. When we finish up our conversion to Vanguard, our next project in line is to redo our soils layer. In other words, the tillable acreage, the woods acres and that. And if we had a new photo based on all of the changes probably that have taken place out in the country, we'd be a lot more accurate with our information that we'd be presenting to the taxpayer. So that's where we're coming from. When I stopped into planning and zoning, I mentioned to Holly that we were going to come before the board to present a flyover presentation, and she said, well, good, I haven't put houses on, I haven't put the dot for for the septic systems on there, because there's no house on the 010 layer for the last 3 years. Those houses don't show up, obviously. And she puts the dot on the house around exactly where the, you know, the septic system is at. So that was helpful to her too, so she was in favor of it, so.
Plus, we've had a few floods since then, too.
Changes things.
So this shoots from all 4 angles plus straight down.
Correct. Yeah.
And it costs less.
Less than last time.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge benefit for the sheriff's office. Also, we pull up pictures if we ever have to go to a house or someone's got someone barred in, we know exactly what the place looks like before we get there. We know where we can set up.
Call comes in picture.
Yeah, every 911 call comes in with a photograph of the residents and what to expect and what to look at. So you can see all the outbuildings and you know how to proceed. It's a nice feature.
So-
like a lot of the departments use it, spot
Oh, yeah.
It's a very good.
Yeah.
When will this be done?
They're gonna try and do it in spring of 2014.
Otherwise they can't see the trees and everything, it's all white.
Well, they try to wait till all the snow goes and then get out there before all the leaves come on.
Yeah.
And some years it's a big time window and some years it's a week or so. So it's,
Who does it?
it's a company called Pictometry.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're based out of New York. They're the
Oh.
leader in the oblique
Mhm.
pictures.
Okay.
There's a lot of companies that do the ortho photos, but there's very few that do the oblique pictures.
The one advantage to the oblique is we have the ability, especially in the cities where we have a little tighter shot, we can actually measure the outside dimensions of the homes fairly accurate.
Really?
You know, especially if we don't get an opportunity to get into the property or whatever, we can just verify the numbers that we have, you know.
And the last time we did this, we did high resolution photography for La Crescent and Caledonia. And this quote includes high resolution photography for all 7 cities.
Dan, 2 quick questions, not to take any time, just out of curiosity, does it improve how far down you can get zooming in? Like, has that gotten any better? Like, can you zoom in
Yeah,
closer?
the last time when we did the flight, we had for the outer areas of the county, 12-inch resolution, 12-inch per pixel resolution from 2 angles. This is 9-inch resolution from 4 angles for the whole county, and the high resolution stuff was 6-inch last time, and this is 4-inch.
Okay, so it's improved.
Yep.
And then how does that work? They take the pictures and then they give you all the data on a card and you put on, or how does that work? How do you get it from the plane to online? Or is it going through another company to put it on, or how?
They, last time we had all their imagery delivered and we put them on individual hard drives, but now they have an online site and we're on a 1-year free trial on the site right now. This contract includes 1 year included, and after that it's going to be $1,500 a year for either 50 or 100 licenses. And we can also give those licenses to any public entity within the county.
Also for
School
those city
districts,
maintenance, sure.
cities, fire departments, all
And
that stuff.
that yearly fee we've got covered after that 1 year?
We don't have it covered yet, but we'll come up with a way to cover it.
Okay. But we have a year to
Right.
worry about it. Okay.
Yep.
I think it sounds like a great
Mhm.
thing. I make
Good expense.
a motion that we accept the proposal that Dan brought before us for the pictometry.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Judy, seconded Dana, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
I'm having the attorney's office go over the contract for the language, but I'll bring that in when we get the approved.
Sure.
Dan, what was the amount again?
$65,792.75.
We're going to put 75 cents on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Carol?
Good morning. We just have a few financial areas that we have to take care of before the end of the year. And the first I gave you budget amendment request forms, and we just had the highway department and the extension service request adjustments, and actually the extension service was for $100 to move from miscellaneous to mileage to cover some additional expenses they had this year. The highway department, they are requesting changes to the various areas just so that their expenditures match the budget. It's not increasing or decreasing the levy amount or the, the bottom line. It's just moving it into separate categories or different categories to clean up how their year-end looks. So I would request approval of those budget amendments.
I'll make a motion to accept those amendments to the budget.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Judy, seconded by Teresa. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
All right, we must also look at our fund balance and see if there's any restrictions or assignments that we must do prior to the end of the year. And general revenue doesn't have any to make. We did have the $25,000 previously that was given to us by the Arlen Falk Foundation, but they did approve usage of that in just the airport overlay instead of the big project. So we don't have to restrict that anymore because the project was done. The highway department does have, they received CASA 13 disaster project money in the amount of $1,027,897, and we need to restrict that in our fund balance. It's just realizing that we can't use that for any other project.
Except for road
Except
repair,
for
based
CASA
on the
13.
flood.
Just that specific road,
Okay.
CASA 13. And then they also would like to commit $225,000, which is what they had done last year also for the County Road 249 bridges. So I would ask for approval of those designations.
Move to approve?
Okay, moved by Steve,
Second?
seconded by Judy. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And just the last thing that we have to do is designate our major funds for the upcoming year and minor funds. And for us, we have three major funds. They are the General Revenue Fund, Road and Bridge, and Human Services. And previously, we had designated our capital projects and debt service as major funds, but they don't qualify really as major funds anymore. So the capital project fund is actually zeroed out for now, so we won't be using that fund. So I would like the debt service fund designated as a minor fund. So we have three major funds and one minor fund for 2014.
And this is just to really qualify for the audit reports as required.
Right, when you looked at the audit report, it showed major funds and minor funds
Right.
designation. It's how it appears in that financial statement. So,
Is this something we do every December, just
Yes.
as, okay. I'll make a motion to have the three major funds and the rest minor, or whatever Carol told us to do.
the debt service
Whatever you
as minor
said.
fund.
Okay, motion by Teresa,
Second?
seconded Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And I did, I forgot to give you the November financial report last year, so it's really kind of outdated now, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll have the December one. But you can review that and just let me know if there are any questions at all.
Sounds good.
And that's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. All right, consent agenda. Tons delivered to Xcel. Everybody saw that?
Yep.
Approval on the consent
I'll
agenda.
make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Judy,
Second?
seconded Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Unfinished, anybody Anybody have anything on these three that you're aware of?
No.
This isn't really, well, that's kind of, it's on the topic, but not really too relevant maybe, but yesterday, I had a gentleman come over, a friend of mine, that started working for Unimint, the big mining company over by Toma. And I haven't talked to him in a long time, and so he came over to hunt on Saturday. And I said, how's business going over there? Anything happening? And he said, well, we just are finishing up building our huge facility. And I said, everything's going to be under one roof. And he said, they just ordered 200 rail cars. And those are the new rail cars that were sitting in La Crescent right along the deal there.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, so things are looking big? And he goes, yeah, supposedly. He said, prices are going up, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know how much, because I don't know what he does over there, so I don't know how, what's hearsay and what's not, but I guess they projected that they're gonna start firing that up, so I'm kind of.
This is sand.
Yeah.
Frac sand?
Yeah.
Silica.
Yeah.
Where's this heading?
Unimint? Yeah, by Toma. Yeah, they're like the nation's largest or whatever, so that was kind of ironic. I saw those rail cars sitting in the press for a long time. And
They
I
look
said
like
something.
new,
They're
unused.
brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said they just ordered 200 new ones, so that was kind of a little bit.
And they're enclosed.
Yeah.
They're enclosed.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, when we saw that report at the AMC conference on North Dakota,
Yeah.
they
That's
have,
very-
every mile, they have a pad of where they do it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, not that it really had any relevance, but I
Well,
thought you guys
it's
would
good.
kick
Might
out just
have.
hearing
Yeah.
that one, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, it might have down the road, Steve, right. Anything else? Okay, unfinished. Let's jump down to the discussion items real quick. Claims, since we got them all signed. Motion to approve the claims, human services and license center disbursements.
I move.
Moved by Steve,
I'll second it.
seconded Teresa. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Carries.
I really like getting those claims ahead of time too, because then if I do have any questions, I can ask directly to the department they come from,
Right.
which I did on one of them, so
Yep.
that works good. Yeah.
Also, Michelle, I like how now you're
Did that
labeling.
help?
That helped immensely. Thank you. All
Good. I'll keep you looking at it.
right, thank you. When I opened it, I should have emailed right back and said, yes, this is good.
Oh,
All right, one more signature. Okay, and discussion process filling planning commission vacancies. We have, our applicants are in, I believe Tess has those, and we're talking about if we should have like a screening committee first to go over the applicants and then bring finalists to the board, or if we should have a full panel.
I think, could I just give an idea here?
Sure.
I would like to see it have like the two people from the planning board, Tess, Rick, and two commissioners. Dana being on the planning board should be on it. And then like this time coming up, it's your area,
Yeah, I
so
think I
you
would
should
agree
be
on
on
your
it. And then I think that we should have that committee recommend to us, just like other zoning things come before us, recommend who they feel should get it.
And I'll play off of duty for a little bit. I think that's, like having Dana, since he currently serves on it, he should be on there, and then whoever's district is up, since you kind of know. So, like Dana and I, yeah.
You'll know from this.
Yeah, and then I would say, Rick, since he's a department head,
Right.
would be fine. My only disagreements would be, I don't feel that it would be necessary to have the planning commission members when it's the, we can have that screening committee between the three of us, and we've got the, according to the ordinances, it's up to the county board. I would much rather see kind of a screening committee and bring a few finalists back and let the board make the final decision as a board. Only because you bring back one, we don't necessarily know who the rest were, the candidates, if anything was there.
Well, the only feeling that I have, I really feel the planning committee has so much knowledge on what they would like for the person to have when they come on, and I think that it's fair to ask the planning committee should be involved in it.
And I think that's the fox guard in the hen house asking those people who they want to have serve. It's the decisions made by the board. I would like to see the board start to take leadership and make those decisions versus, asking, well, who would you guys like to work with? I mean, there's going to be some criteria that the board as a final decision maker would like to see. We would like this person to be on there for this reason. I don't necessarily think it's appropriate to have the appoint the appointees.
But they're not doing it on their own. I just feel that if we have a whole team together to look at this, then the team makes the recommendation to the board. I just think that if you leave out players on a team, that you don't get the full input from everybody. And I think that that's where we go wrong in making ourselves more, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Well, I don't know if they want to,
I
would think they'd want to be involved somewhat.
And I
You know,
don't
see the harm
feel
in
at
it.
all it's the fox
Well,
guarding the hen
my only
house
concern
at
is
all.
if you get a group, like we do with the department heads, we don't ask the employees, who would you like to have as your department head? It's our decision who your department is, and we have that decision coming up. So I'd like to see it kind of run more in that angle where we make the decision, here's who we'd like to appoint to this area.
We're still gonna make the decision. They're not
You don't
making
think
the
that-
decision.
I think Rick is a perfect person.
Yeah, I think, you got Rick, you got a planning commission member on there, and you got a board member. You got enough knowledge of what's going on and who's there that you'd be just fine. I worry you start getting too many people, and now you've got 5 people interviewing, it's getting a little bit too much. I think it's plenty capable among 3 people to sort out and come back with 2 or 3 finalists and say, here's our finalist board, let's have you make a decision, who do you like to have on there?
I still go with that. I'm from the team player aspect, and I feel that the more people that are involved in this process, especially because there've been communication issues in the past, I just really feel that it's not the fox guarding the hen house. I just feel that it's called, we work together as a team, and then it recommends it to the board the same way that we do when they recommend zoning things to us. I just would rather have more of a team.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we have a committee put together of Dana, myself, and Rick to go over and recommend finalists to the Board of Commissioners for the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Justin, seconded by Dana. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries. Hello. Did you need something, Carol?
Hello, yes, I just got an email from Sheila that the amount on that fund balance designation for the CASA 13 should actually be $1,127,000 instead of the $1,027,897. Could I have that amended?
Sure.
1,127,000 even?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, got it?
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
And Dana and I can get together with Rick and kind of figure out what day works good and get it out to the candidates.
We have a lot to go. I don't even know what.
There's 6, I guess,
Okay.
that I've heard.
And Tess will be in on that also,
Yep,
correct?
yep. And she had asked to sit down to make sure that process is being done in due
Let me know.
diligence. So, maybe we'll get together and get a date worked out and go from there. And then we also have discussed filling alternate position at the Board of Adjustments. I talked to Rick and Bob too about having that possibly be filled, or at least first offered to planning commission members leaving.
And we talked to the committee, I think.
Yeah, and the only reason there is I think the Board of Adjustments does not come to the Board of Commissioners. They're their own entity, and they make approvals on their own. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing somebody that's got some experience from the Planning Commission side filling that. And if we don't have any candidates, then we can come back for filling that outside of there. But I guess I'd like to offer it first to outgoing Planning Commission members
It'd be good.
to fill those vacancies.
That's what we're talking about.
Bruce Lee.
Right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 And then if he doesn't want to, then we can go back to the drawing board and find another candidate, but. Sound good?
I think good.
Okay. Okay, and then discuss January 6th, 9:00 a.m. for department head director interview. Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Okay.
Put that on my board.
just the one person,
It's a
correct?
Monday, correct.
Next Monday?
We only had one that you know of.
Well, I think there were 2 applicants, but this one is extremely qualified, very highly qualified,
Okay.
and they're very interested.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so we got that down 6 at 9? Okay.
Yeah.
And,
Look at it already filling the Christmas.
okay, other business commissioner reports, comments, Dana, any meetings?
Yeah, last Monday I attended the study committee for the zoning ordinance changes. It was a very good meeting, excellent. Steve was there too, I think. And we talked about a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of, we're really getting these things changed and getting them readable and we're covering a few things we haven't covered before. Some new ordinances coming on campgrounds and some other stuff. They're doing a great job. It's nice to have the township in here. And that's the only thing I had last week.
Teresa, do you have anything?
I just had, well, reviews last Thursday.
Yeah, I was at the planning committee, study committee meeting, and it was a good meeting.
Yep. Anything else, Steve? Judy?
No, I'm good.
I was at the study committee meeting as well for a short time, and I thought it went well. There was some good discussion and
Yep, good
I was good
discussion.
things being looked at.
No arguments, seemed like
Yeah,
a school meeting.
yep, thought that was great. All right, any other business to come before the board?
Do you plan on doing Donna's review? And if so, is it going to be over in the other room when we have it?
When?
With the rest of us?
She's available.
She is available.
Right
I'm
now?
supposed to let her know.
And Rick,
You guys stay back for?
we didn't get Rick here, did we?
Rick is gone. Mondays he works down at the dump site.
We're gonna do this today.
We could if you
Yeah,
are willing.
talk.
Yep.
Right
Yeah,
now,
let's
right
put it on.
already at the
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
fine.
yep.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay,
Okay, moved by Judy,
second.
seconded Steve, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, we'll go down these lines.